So what if you could build a working web app without writing every single line of code manually? In this video, I will show you how to use Claude Code with Antigravity to build a simple student study planner app from scratch. And this is going to be a beginner-friendly step-by-step tutorial, and we will be covering the setup and how you can create a project folder, open Claude Code inside Antigravity, write the right prompts, generate the app, review the files, test everything in the browser and make a small improvement, and finally save the project properly. And while doing this, I will also show you how to use Claude Code smartly, so you don't waste unnecessary tokens while building. So let's get started. So before we start building, let's quickly understand what Claude Code actually is. So Claude Code is an AI coding assistant that works inside your terminal. So instead of only chatting with AI in a browser, you can open Claude directly into your project folder and ask it to help you create files or maybe edit code, fix errors, explain the problems, and even plan your application before writing the code. So in simple terms, you describe what you want to build and Claude Code would then help you generate the code for it. But there's one thing that you should keep in mind. Claude Code is not a replacement for your thinking. If your prompt is vague, the output can become messy. But if your prompt is clear, structured, and specific, the result becomes much better. So that is exactly what we'll focus on this tutorial. For today's tutorial, we will build a simple student study planner web app. And this app will allow a student to add a subject, add a study task, select the priority of that task, mark the task as complete and clear completed task. And we are intentionally keeping this project simple. There will be no backend, no database, no login systems, and no external libraries. We will only use the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Because the reason is simple. When you are learning Claude Code for the first time, your first project should be not too complicated. So if you ask AI to build a complete platform in one go, it may create too many files and it might consume many tokens and make the project harder to debug. So we will start it very small, we will keep the scope clear, and we will build it properly. Before we begin, make sure you have a few things ready. First, what you need is a Claude account or Anthropic access. Second, you need Claude Code installed on your system. Third, you need Antigravity installed, and in this tutorial we will use Antigravity as our code editor. Fourth, you should have Git installed. Git would help us save versions of our project, so if something breaks later we can return to a working version. And a GitHub account is optional for this tutorial, but if you want to store your code online, you can connect GitHub later. Now, one important clarification. We are not using Antigravity as a replacement for Claude Code. We are using Antigravity as a code editor and the Claude Code inside Antigravity's integrated terminal. So this gives us the best of both worlds. Claude Code helps us generate and edit the code, whereas Antigravity would help us visually inspect the files. So now let's install Claude Code. So if you're using Mac, Linux or WSL, you open your terminal and you run this command. And if you're using Windows, you open PowerShell and you run this command. And if you can't find these commands, don't worry. Just go to the Anthropic documentation for Claude Code and you can find these commands easily over there. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I will copy this command. Since I'm using a Mac, I'm gonna paste it on my terminal, and as you can see, my Claude Code has been installed. Okay, now after the installation is complete, what you need to do is you need to type Claude, and the first time you run Claude Code, it may ask you to sign in through your browser. So complete the sign in process and then return back to the terminal, and it may also ask you whether you trust the current folder. So that is normal because Claude Code, it works inside the project folders. And once Claude opens successfully in your terminal, your setup is working. Okay. After this, what you have to do is open Antigravity. Okay. we will create a fresh project folder for this tutorial, and I have named the folder Claude Code. You can choose any name you want, but keep it simple and easy to identify. And this folder is where our complete project will live. So when Claude Code creates files, they will appear inside this particular folder. And once the folder is open in Antigravity, you should also see an empty workspace, right? So this is exactly what we need. Now we need to open the integrated terminal inside Antigravity. So I have already opened my terminal. So this is where our Claude Code workflow would begin. The reason that we are using the integrated terminal is simple. We want Claude Code to run inside the same project folder that is already open in Antigravity. So when Claude creates files like index.html, style.css or script.js, we will immediately see them appear in the editor. So that is much easier than switching between a separate terminal and a separate code editor. So everything lives inside our Antigravity. Now what you need to do is, in Antigravity's terminal you have to enter Claude. I was facing an error, it was a path error, so I fixed that. After that my Claude Code started, and here I go. If Claude asks you to trust this folder, because it asked me, you have to choose yes. And after all those permissions, now Claude Code is active inside our project folder. And this means that we can start asking it to plan, create and edit files within this workspace. But at this stage, don't immediately ask it to build the full app. First, we will use Claude properly by asking it to create a plan, right? So before we write our first prompt, let's understand one important thing. Claude Code uses tokens when it reads your instruction, understands the project, writes code even when they are checking the files and explaining the changes. So if your prompt is too broad, Claude may create more than you actually need. For example, you don't start with build me a complete student productivity platform which has login, dashboard, backend, database, analytics and notifications. Sure, that would sound impressive, but for a beginner tutorial it is too much. Instead, we will be very specific and we will tell Claude to build one simple app using only HTML, CSS and JavaScript, and we will limit it to 3 files. This is how you get a cleaner output and you avoid wasting tokens, okay? So Claude Code works best when you don't rush directly into coding. A good workflow is to ask Claude to plan first. So if your Claude Code setup shows different modes, you can switch to plan mode using Shift plus Tab. So if I click on Shift and Tab, you can see that I can easily switch my modes. I have my accept edits on mode, I have my plan mode, I have my auto mode on, but for this I will initiate my plan mode on and I will be working on this. So plan mode, it would help Claude to think through the structure before it would actually start editing the files. So even if you do not use plan mode, you can still manually instruct Claude by saying do not write the code yet, first give me the plan. And this is what we will do now. We will ask Claude to create only the plan and file structure first. So what I am doing is I will be initiating my plan mode on, but you can change the mode, you can go for auto if you want to, because at the end our first prompt is all about planning. And just notice how specific this prompt is. We are not just saying make an app, we are telling Claude exactly what type of app we require, what files to use and what features to include and what features we need to avoid. So I'm just going to paste my prompt over here. So I have inserted my prompt. My prompt is create a simple beginner friendly student study planner web app. Before writing any code, create a short plan only. I have mentioned my requirements that is use only HTML, CSS and JavaScript. Keep everything lightweight, no backend, no database, no login, no external libraries unless something absolutely required. Create only 3 files. We have index.html, style.css and script.js. The app should allow students to add steady tasks, choose priority, mark tasks complete and clear completed tasks. And we keep the UI clean, modern and suitable for NIIT learners. And I have specifically asked it to do not write the code yet, first give me the plan and the file structure. So as you can see here, Claude is asking me certain things like if the task should persist after the browser is refreshed or closed. So we will just choose the recommended option for this. And you can also chat about this, and you can enter the prompt manually and direct Claude whatever needs to be done. So for now we'll go with the recommended option. So I'm just going to enter 1. And now it's asking me what extra details should each steady task include beyond its name and priority. So I think subject and due date is good. So we'll just enter 1. And are we ready to submit our answers? Yes. And now it's generating the whole plan for me. So at this stage, we only want the plan. If the plan looks too large, we will ask Claude to simplify it. And if the plan looks clean, we can move to the coding setup. So we can see that Claude has written up a plan and is ready to execute. Would you like to proceed? So we'll just check out our plan first. So this is our plan, and we have our context, we have our scope and constraints, and we can see that Claude has created a plan. So before we approve it, we will quickly review it first. There are 3 things we need to check. First, it is using only HTML, CSS and JavaScript. So I think it is. Second, it is only creating 3 files that we asked for, and yes, it is. Third, it is avoiding unnecessary features like login, backend, database and external packages. Well, yes, it is. And if all of this looks fine, I think we can ask Claude to build the app. So this review step is important because it keeps the project clean and prevents unnecessary token usage later. So after I have reviewed the plan, I will ask Claude to create the actual app files. And again, we will keep the instruction clear and controlled. So I'll go on my 4th option and I will enter a prompt. So what Claude will do is, Claude will start creating the files, and it has already created the index.html file. So I'm going to proceed for yes, and for my style CSS, everything looks great. So I'm going to say yes, and I have my script.js, and I'm going to proceed and say yes. So it will ask for all the permissions to edit the files. So what it's gonna do is it's gonna ask for permissions to edit files, and you can allow it for the session. And once it finishes, we should see the files appear inside the Antigravity, and we can see that over here. So all our files have been created, as you can see. So now we can see the file inside the Antigravity, and this is why this workflow is useful. Claude Code is doing the coding work from the terminal, while Antigravity lets us visually inspect the files. And that is great. So what you do is you can open index.html first, then you can quickly check the style.css, and you can finally open the script.js. So you don't need to understand every single line immediately, but you should always review what AI creates. At minimum, check whether Claude created only the files you asked for and it did not add anything unnecessary. So what we are going to do next is we are going to open our index.html file, and now let's test the app. So now what we are going to do is we are going to test the app in the browser. So open the index.html file in your browser. So what I have done is I have just prompted Claude Code to launch the HTML file for me in the browser so that I can test my app. And it actually did. So you can always run your files by prompting like this, or you can just enter a command that is run index.html. It's totally up to you. So this is my study planner app, and now let's test the app. So I'm going to add a subject like probably DSA, and my task name would be revise linked list and binary tree, and I'm going to select my date as to when do I want to revise my concept. So probably 7th of September 2026. And what is my priority? Let's keep it high, and I'm just going to click on my add task button over here, and there we go. So the task would appear in the list, and if you have actually completed the task, you can just click on this button and our task would be completed, so we can mark it as complete. So now we can clear the completed task as well. So for instance, my task has been completed and I don't want it to be displayed on my app. So I can just click on this button and boom, my task is now gone. So our basic app is working, and this is a good first version, but now we will make one small improvement. So what are we going to do is, let's go back to our Claude Code, and now we are back on our Claude Code. This is the right way to work with AI coding tools. So I will enter a prompt that is my app is working, and make one small improvement. When a task is marked complete, make it visually clear by adding a subtle line through and reducing opacity. Only update the required CSS and JavaScript, and do not rewrite the entire app. And after making the change, briefly explain what was updated. So I'll just paste my prompt over here, and I'm going to click on my enter button, and there we go. So Claude Code reverted back to us as to what was actually updated. So the Claude Code has reverted back with whatever things have been updated. For instance, we have a toggle complete function, so no JS change was needed, and in style.css we have a stronger fade, we have line through on the whole task, we have a smooth transition. So our changes have been made. Now that the app is working, we should save this version, of course. And this is where Git would become useful. So Git helps us create a checkpoint of the project. So if we make changes later and something breaks, we can return to this working version. So let's ask Claude to initialize Git and create the first commit. So I'm just going to enter a prompt over here. So I have entered a prompt that initialize a Git repository for this project, create the first commit with this message that is initial student study planner app, and then explain how I can check the Git status. So it will do everything for us, and it has. If Git is installed correctly, Claude will initialize the repository and create the first commit. And this is a professional habit. Even when you're building with AI, always save your work properly. And on that note, we'll go to our next task, that is creating the Claude project memory. So let's do one more useful step. Claude Code can create a project memory file, usually called Claude.md, and this file would store the project specific instructions. So when you reopen this project later, Claude can understand the rules of the project again. To create this, what you need to do is you need to type /init and click on enter. And once Claude creates a file, we will add some simple project rules to it. So we will allow Claude Code to create a Claude.md file. Now it's asking whether I want to commit it, but before I do that, I will enter a prompt. So let me just paste that prompt. So basically the prompt that I've entered is I will update the CLAUDE.md file with these project rules. So that is, keep this project beginner friendly, use only HTML, CSS and JavaScript, do not add backend database login or external libraries unless I ask. Do not add backend database login or external libraries unless I ask. Make one small change at a time. Explain changes briefly. Commit stable versions with clear commit messages. So I'm doing all of this because I want to save the amount of tokens that is to be optimized. Okay. If you want me to deep dive into an actual working app, just comment down below and I will make a end-to-end working app for you, which is not going to be a basic app, but actually something that could be used as a potential business. So now we'll go down and yes, we'll click on enter and we will use the auto mode, and I will like to proceed. So this is very useful when you're working on longer projects, and it would help Claude stay aligned with your expectation instead of changing the direction of the project later. Now I'll also show you another important Claude Code command. So that is /model. Now depending on your account and setup, this may allow you to choose which model you want to use. The idea is simple. Use stronger models for complex tasks, like if you have to plan architecture or debug something. And for smaller changes, you can use the lighter or faster models, which may be enough if they are available. And you don't always need to use the most powerful model for every small edit, and that is a big part of smart AI usage. Use the right model, give a clear prompt, limit the scope, and review the output. And that's how you build better without wasting tokens. So out of this, Opus is the strongest model that Anthropic has released. Sonnet is kind of a middle layer model, and Haiku is basically a basic model used for simpler tasks and quicker responses. So on that note, let's recap of whatever we have done until now. We opened Antigravity and we created a fresh project folder. We opened the integrated terminal and started Claude Code inside the project. We asked Claude to create a plan before writing the code. Then we generated a simple app using 3 files. Then we reviewed the files, tested the app in the browser, made one small improvement and saved the project with Git. And then we also created a Claude and memory file. This is the right beginner workflow for using Claude Code. Don't start with a massive project. Start small, give clear instructions, review the output and improve step by step. So our final app is working, and now Claude Code can help you build faster. But the real skill is not just using AI. The real skill is knowing how to guide AI properly. So start small, be specific, plan before coding, make one change at a time, and always review what AI creates. That is how you use AI like a professional. So if you found this tutorial useful, subscribe to NIIT for more practical videos on AI, coding and future ready skills, and comment down below guys, because I read every single comment. If you want me to make a bigger project or a very end-to-end SaaS project, comment down below and I will get it done for you. So thank you so much.